Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast Offseason Preview Series, where we're going through all 30 teams and discussing all of the big upcoming decisions that they have this summer. Today, we're going to talk about the Chicago Bulls and try to find a direction for the Bulls, I think is how we're going to phrase this. We just need to find a way to get them out of the middle, maybe is the way to put it. Before we get into that, though, go hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel, like over 37,000 of you guys already have. If you enjoy the content, if you enjoy the way Bryce and I talk about basketball, go hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate everybody that has come through this playoff run, this offseason. Everybody has really shown us a ton of love. So we thank you guys for that. Go hit the subscribe button on the podcast feeds as well, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever podcasting platform that you use. These also go up on the podcast feed, I think daily around 12 Eastern time. So please go hit the subscribe button there. You'll be able to get these if you're an audio only listener as well. Bryce, the Chicago Bulls, kind of speechless on where I'm at with the Bulls at this point. Let's start here. What do we think they're trying to accomplish? Maybe is like that might be the easiest place to start. What do we think their goals are? Like, are they trying to middle this like Toronto did? Did they think that they're like bad enough to tank? I think that answer is probably no, right? Given the fact that they have the 12th overall pick this year. What are they trying to do? Because I'm still, after basically since the Lonzo Ball injury, unfortunately, and they were first in the Eastern Conference, like I just don't know what they're trying to actually accomplish is my problem.
So I wonder if they think they are quote unquote staying competitive, even though I think we would all agree they aren't actually competitive, maybe respectable because they make the play-in. I don't know, whatever you want to say, while also building out a young future. And so I think if you ask them, they would say, hey, we have 24-year-old Kobe White on a really good contract right now, which this will be interesting. 22-year-old Josh Giddey. We have 20-year-old Modest Bizelis. We have the number 12 pick. You and I like Ayo Dosunmu on another guy on a good contract. The thing is, speaking of good contracts, we're going to talk the Josh Giddey situation. Kobe White's about to not be on a good, he may be on a good contract, but not a steal of a deal. Dosunmu's deal is coming. So my point is you've kind of wasted guys on those lower numbers while you have some interesting names. I don't know if you have a star, like who's the face of your franchise whenever you think the Chicago Bulls, and you're about to have to start making real financial decisions on quite a few of these guys over the next couple of years anyway. So you didn't even take advantage of the really good contract situations you had with them.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. One advantage to this, I will say, for Chicago is that their books are like, they could not be more clean going into the summer of 2026.
Yeah.
Like Lonzo Ball has a team option in 2026-27. The Patrick Williams deal is a disaster, but like it's $18 million and that's it. Jalen Smith is on a $9 million deal that summer. And then they obviously have Modest's deal, Julian Phillips' deal, and then the 12th overall picks deal. And my guess is that they're going to have Josh Giddey's deal on their books that summer as well. Let's call it that they're going to have, 67, 62, let's say 70 million on their books that summer. Kobe White's only going to have a $24 million cap hold. So they're going to be at a place where they have like real max money to be able to spend in 2026, 27. But I think that my problem with the Bulls, just organizationally as a whole, is I don't know why any free agent would trust this front office at this point to build like a really strong contender based off of what they've shown, like having moved 2 first-round picks for Nikola Vucevic, having moved, having taken Patrick Williams at number 4 overall, having moved Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey, and Giddey, has been fine for them, but that wasn't the value of the deal at the time. Like to not get a first-round pick for Alex Caruso is completely bonkers to me. And while Giddey is a solid player for you and looks like a good starting point guard in the NBA moving forward, he's going to get expensive now. And that's the hard part. And this was always the issue with this contract or with this trade for Caruso for Giddey, is that Giddey is now going to be making $30 million probably. Like if it's not 30, it's 28 or whatever the number is. You know what I mean? So this is now going to be an incredibly interesting needle to thread if you're the Chicago Bulls, where you've almost pinned a large portion of your hopes on getting a star in 2026, 27, like the summer of 2026. Like you have to hope that you can find a superstar somewhere, or maybe you're trying to trade for one this summer that you can, keep long term. Like I just don't. Again, this is what, like, the direction thing is what's really interesting to me. I'm just not sure what the direction is.
What's the draw other than it being Chicago and the Bulls? You know what I mean? Like the history of the Chicago Bulls and Michael and, the city of Chicago. What on the roster is a draw? Like I could go around to a lot of rosters in the NBA and at least be like, there's a few others where I'm like, I don't know that there's a player or whatever that would be exciting for a star, like, or even like a second guy, right? Or whatever, to say, I want to go be that would be what it is, right? Like somebody that is currently a number 2 or 3 option that's like Chicago's the place I can go be the guy. But like there's just not a whole lot that's exciting. And again, the guys that are kind of interesting and on decent deals right now are about to either be gone or be paid. And then no longer do those books look extremely impressive depending on how you handle those. And so it seems like it's the same thing every year with this team. And it's frustrating. It is frustrating because I feel like they've had opportunities to pick a direction, go down that direction, and start to build this thing out in a way that maybe they could be real contenders at some point.
Do you know what the appeal is to me? Honestly, if I was like somebody who was in this position, and if I was like Chicago trying to pitch free agents, I think I would say the fan base is fucking amazing.
Sure.
The Chicago Bulls fan base is incredible. If you are the star that brings back the Chicago Bulls to like real relevance, you're going to be a legend in Chicago. You're going to be the most popular athlete in the city, probably. Maybe you could point to a couple of guys on the Cubs like Kyle Tucker, but like, I just think the Bulls are a little bit different there because the baseball town is split, obviously. Maybe some guys on the Bears, like maybe Caleb Williams, like if he was to lead the Bears to the promised land, I mean, my God, that would probably actually be number one. But like, if you are the guy who takes the Bulls back to the promised land, you're going to be incredibly marketable. You're going to be an absolute superstar because this fan base is going to absolutely adore you moving forward. And you're never going to have to buy a drink in the town again. You're never going to have to work a day in your life again. Like that's the pitch to me if I am like the Bulls front office. But
I love it.
Is it good enough?
so like you got me like, oh yeah, I love it. Like I would love an athlete to say that. If I was that athlete's representation, I would go right back to you and say, show me the plan. How are you going to build out your roster to show me that I can believe in you to build out your roster around my client to do all of those things? He's ready to sign up for it. He wants to be the next Chicago Bull legend, but he ain't going to be the Chicago Bull legend if he keeps playing in the play-in because we can't make the decisions around it to get anywhere further than that. So I just don't know that I trust the decision making and putting the right guys around it to make it happen.
Yeah, I agree. So the number one, like, to do on the to-do list this summer, at least, is Josh Giddey, right? Interesting year for Josh Giddey, I would say. The first part of the year was not amazing, if only because he was kind of in this weird log jammed roster where they had Zach LaVine and Kobe White, and it just felt so messy and like terrible, frankly. And we talked about that throughout the course of the season, that like nothing here really made sense. If you look at Josh Giddey's season from, let's see here, January 20th onward, Giddey averaged 18.9 points, 9.1 rebounds, 7.9 assists versus only 3 turnovers, and shot 49.6, 43.8, 80. The shooting splits are like the biggest improvement here. I mean, look, like Giddey is not out here like chucking threes, but he took over 4 threes a game in that window and drilled 44% of them. I don't think he's a 44% 3-point shooter, but he might be at the point now where he is not a disastrous 3-point shooter. Like, I think he is like, if he pulls up from 3, maybe not pulls up, if he catches one from 3, if he's really open, I kind of think the ball has a real shot to go in at this point. I think this was a hot shooting stretch, but on top of everything else that he does, the passing, the rebounding, the ability to drive play in transition, I do think Josh Giddey is actually a good player. The question is he good enough given how much he has to play on the ball?
Good enough for what? I think is always the question with Josh Giddey, right? Like, I think he's an interesting player because he's not your number 1 offensive guy. Like, he's not your number 2 scoring option. Like, what scoring option is he? And then you have to put the right scoring options around him, Sam, because why did he get traded out to Oklahoma City? Because they needed somebody that could play off the ball and play defense.
Right.
So as soon as you go and get guys who are better options in terms of being able to go get 25 to 28 a game and start putting them on the ball. Now his role diminishes a little by little. And that's like, even if he's a good cutter, like it's still interesting, but it's still like, I don't love having these conversations around Josh Giddey on my team where I have to build my team around him, right? Like he needs to be a player that just fits into whatever else I want to do with my roster. And that's kind of my issue. So I think you just have to like, hey, he's going to be our on-ball guy. We'll put a bunch of scoring around him and hope that we can get these off the ball bucket getters. And he initiates and runs offense for us. And the pace thing is really important because they were like number 2 in pace, top 3 in pace in the regular season. So obviously like him doing that for them is something that they would really value.
Totally right. I will say, like, again, Giddey did make 37.9% of his threes off the catch this year on like almost 250 attempts, right? I wonder if we're closing in because look, he's 22 years old. Like he is definitely a worker in terms of his game. Like I know that from being over here. Like I do wonder if there is a real point here where he becomes a good enough shooter off the catch. And I think we might be closing in on it to where it's not necessarily that he only can be on the ball anymore.
It's interesting. Like I'm definitely more interested then. Again, I always struggle a little bit then with the whole mentality aspect of these things, right? Like you take a guy that plays so much on the ball, and even if he can shoot it, how much are you really highlighting his skills and his talents if he's playing that much off the ball? And so it would just be interesting. It obviously makes it would be a huge part of the equation, right? If he can knock down, catch and shoot threes, and then like, it's fun because then now he's attacking closeouts and he's making decisions from an unsettled defense. And that gets even more interesting than just playing on the ball and the lineups you could play with size and all of that. And I'm glad you brought up the rebounding and what he does there. So again, I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's just another one of those players I struggle with in terms of like, what does he mean for a real playoff contender? Where does that role fall into? And it always seems you end up having these conversations and how do we build this team around Josh Giddey? And it's like, well, Josh Giddey should be like the 3rd or 4th best player on our team. Why are we building our team around our 3rd or 4th best player? You know what I mean? Like that always causes me a little bit of pause, Sam.
Again, like he's 22. I'm trying to like, I part of this is that like, I really enjoy watching Josh play.
Of course.
Like, I'm trying to like figure out, is there a case here, given the fact that he's 22 years old, given the fact that he's showing real improvement? Like, this is the thing. Again, like the fact that he hit 38% off the catch from 3 this year is a real important note to me. But here's where I'm going to like almost like counteract myself. How much of this is like confidence and having the ball in his hand, being able to like play with the flow? Correct. And like, the rhythm that he really enjoys playing with. Because if you look at the 28 games before the stretch that I mentioned earlier, where the Bulls were really good, where they put the ball in his hands, the 28 game stretch before that, he averaged 10 points, shooting 43, 28, 84.
Yeah.
And really struggled from three. So is it a rhythm thing for Josh? Is it a, flow thing? Like what is it like at this point? Because the shot doesn't look amazing, but the results were pretty good this year. Right. So he is a guy that I am like kind of in the same boat with you. Like I do struggle with it a little bit, trying to figure out where exactly he sits in the hierarchy of what he can be in terms of a team.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that flow and that rhythm is a real part of this as well. Like when you grow up with the ball in your hands, orchestrating offense, and you're always getting touches, there's an aspect of that it plays into your confidence and your rhythm and your ability to knock down shots. Like it's not an easy adjustment, and that's what this is the big thing I like to always bring up. Like I grew up playing with the ball in my hands. Like I went to a really small school, so I was probably the best player or whatever. And so they put the ball in my hands. When I went to college, it was like,
you played Division I basketball. You were the best player on your team. It's fine.
Okay. When I went JUCO, it was like, I wasn't that good on the ball. So I had to go learn to play off the ball. And even though I was a good shooter, it was a mentality change because I might go a few possessions, never touching the basketball, and it's like, okay, well then whenever I do touch it, okay, now I want to shoot it. I need to shoot it, but now I'm forcing, now I'm thinking about it. Like it is not that he can't do it. You continue to bring up how young he is, and that's an important point, and that he grew and got better, which is important also. And listen, I'm not saying he can't do these things. This would just be some of my pause with it in general. I think Chicago put themselves in a situation where they have to pay him regardless. Like you traded Alex Caruso to bring him here. He's one of your most important players on the roster currently. You can't play a game here.
I would argue he's the most important player on the roster currently.
Yeah, I mean it's
him and Modest.
Yeah. That's what like he's better than Modest right now. You invested a high pick in Modest. Like we could debate that, whatever. But yeah, I'm with you for sure.
Yeah. What is the Josh Giddey contract in your opinion?
More than what I would want to give. Is there another path? Is there a path to like what are the options here? Like can they actually play the game, let him hit restricted free agency and just see what happens? Do they dare do that?
Sure, but like you risk him taking the qualifying offer at that point, I would guess. And like again, do I mind if he takes the qualifying offer?
Which is 25-1? Maybe,
but then he's in no, that's the cap hold.
That's the cap hold.
Qualifying offer is
not that much.
Yeah, I can look it up real quick. The qualifying offer will be, let's see here. Give me a second. I'll find it. But the thing here is that like you risk him going to unrestricted free agency the summer after, and then just like losing him for nothing after you traded Caruso, which was the best asset on your team. The problem is not that you didn't get a talented player for Caruso. You absolutely did. The issue is that
you have to pay that guy.
The process here was very bad in terms of figuring out the best way to get the most out of that Caruso asset, because now you're going to have to pay Giddey, and you didn't get a pick at the time, which you probably should have. You didn't even get a second round pick at the time. It was just straight up for Giddey. So I think that this number is like 4 years, 120. Like I think it's like a big number.
Yeah. I mean, that's the number I continue to see thrown around, and it's just, I'm struggling to wrap my head around that. And I know the salary cap is going up. I get it. I understand. Like I said, I think they have to give it to him because I don't think they can play around with it. And like, I mean, I wonder if like Brooklyn would throw money at him if they did let this go to restricted free agency, and what they would throw at him as well. And so maybe
you need a point guard.
Yeah, maybe they end up at this number regardless, right? Like that's maybe that if I'm Chicago, I'm going, well, now we're going to piss him off because we let him go to restricted free agency, and then Brooklyn's just going to throw a deal at him that we're going to have to match anyway that's in the same number. So,
I mean, if I'm Giddey's representation, I'm absolutely throwing the Brooklyn thing at them.
100%.
And saying Brooklyn is interested.
And
if you're Brooklyn, you're not denying it. Like, because the goal here is that this is a zero-sum game. And if Josh Giddey is making $30 million on the Chicago Bulls, that eats into their cap space in 2026, right? Like that eats into like flexibility for them and potentially creates more options for you. Even if you don't want Josh Giddey, you should say that you're interested. So, I think the Bulls are in a tough spot here to be able to keep this number down. And for what it's worth, the qualifying offer is 11.1 million.
Yeah. I was looking at the cap hold. That was way too high. My bad.
Yeah. I think that this ends up being, I think they don't do the 5th year. Maybe that's the concession.
The negotiation.
Like it's not 150.
Sure.
But I think, you're probably looking like 120 is my read.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm with you. Like I say, it's just in general, I'm not one that always likes to spend the money. I balk at that stuff a little bit. But I think that's probably what it's going to end up being. And if they can get them lower, like if they get closer to 4 for 100, then I start to really, really like I start to like that a lot more. But yeah, I think he probably does have some leverage in terms of Brooklyn could use a ball handler and they have the cap space. And so they could throw that at Chicago as some leverage.
I think that's right. Couple other things here. Nikola Vucevic, is in an expiring situation. I mean, look, like it's probably time to move on here if you're the Chicago Bulls.
No,
from Vooch, in my opinion.
We're not talking about this. They never are going to do it. He's on the team for life. They're extending him this offseason. We are not getting baited into this conversation again.
I mean, I don't even know. Is he extension eligible? Let me take a look here.
He is, according to Spot Track.
Funny.
I think
it'd be very funny.
I hope it's the first news of free agency. I think it'd be hilarious.
I don't think they will. He's 35 to start the season next year. Like, it's. I think that they probably look to move him this summer and see if they can get some value. There are teams that, like, if I'm Golden State still, like, I'm somewhat interested here. It's a good fit.
I mean, they could use a big. He scored. He was 18, 10, and 3.5, shooting 53, 40, 81. Offensively, it's really interesting. Like really interesting offensively. If you can insulate him defensively because you have wings that really guard or your defensive scheme or whatever, he is fascinating for a team that can do that because the offensive season was really impressive.
Yeah, it was. I could not agree more. Would you do something like, the problem now with Golden State, it's actually a little bit harder for Golden State to do this after the Jimmy extension. It'd have to be like Buddy and like a sign and trade for Gary Payton or something like that, or like a sign and trade for Kuminga.
I was going to say, like the name that immediately, I actually thought of Kuminga earlier whenever I was talking about a guy who like maybe thinks he could be a higher option. Like Kuminga's never a number one, but maybe Kuminga thinks he could come there and be like, sure, that would be very Chicago.
They're pretty far away from the aprons to be like, they could probably do something like this if they wanted to. And maybe it's like, maybe that is it. Maybe it's a sign and trade with Kuminga and Vooch.
Interesting.
If I'm Chicago, I don't know. If I'm Golden State, the Kuminga thing is like eminently fascinating to me just because, and we'll have to talk about this when we do their offseason preview. I just don't know. Like, do they extend him the qualifying offer? Because that's like a pretty big amount of money.
That situation is fascinating. I have no idea. Like, I also feel like if I'm Kuminga, I'm just like trying to get out of there as fast as I possibly can. So I'm making whatever decision gets me out of Golden State the soonest. Like he just has to be so unhappy there.
But like in terms of who has money, it's really only Brooklyn. Yeah. So like, how can we figure out a way to like expand the market a little bit? I wonder if it is, something like this where it's like, hey, Kuminga's number is probably not 30 million like people want, but if he got like $20 million a year because someone really buys into the talent, Chicago's probably the team that should be trying to do this, right?
Sure. Yeah. I would be. I mean, you bring him in and sure, like you could talk yourself into a Giddey, Buzelis, Kuminga young core there, plus the number 12 pick. Like, that's kind of Kobe White. Like, that's kind of fun to me. Like, I'd probably watch some Bulls games with that lineup. Like, they're not going to guard a soul, but it would be fun offensively.
Golden State's like 25 million away from the first apron still. So like, it's not like the number for Vooch like kills them in terms of their flexibility. Like if it's Steph, Jimmy, Dre, Vooch, Healed, Moses Moody, Pods, Trace Jackson Davis, Guy Santos, Quentin Post, Pat Spencer, like it's not horrendous to me.
It's interesting. Sure.
Yeah. It's not terrible, at least. And then the Bulls get to take the flyer here.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the more this would be an interesting one for me if I'm Chicago, especially depending on what the contract, right? Like, especially if you get him at a decent number. But yeah, I would be interested. Sure.
And maybe Golden State's not interested in Vooch, but like, maybe they'll try and do a sign and trade somewhere else with Kuminga because they'll get better long-term value by doing it elsewhere. So maybe Chicago's supposed to give up something else, right? Like
that's what I was going to say is like my instinct is Chicago has to add to this a little bit that like, even though Golden State has painted themselves in this corner, I still feel like giving Kuminga up for Vooch at 35 on a 1-year deal is like, I don't love that process and that value for Kuminga, even though like they've probably tanked his value because of their refusal to play him and how that's all played out.
You know what the other thing is that we get to do that we haven't gotten to do yet in this series?
Talk the draft.
We could talk about the draft. The Chicago Bulls have the number 12 overall pick.
This has not been a part of anything we've done thus far, which is kind of crazy. Well, the Sixers one was, I guess, but
yeah, but like that was even a little bit different. Like with the Bulls, to me, like they should be using the number 12 overall pick.
They are making this pick. Yeah, we're not talking about them trading out of this like a lot of that conversation was. Agreed.
What do you think a realistic draft hope is for the Chicago Bulls here?
Okay, so it kind of depends a little bit, I guess, on what they do with Vooch. Let's say they do look to trade him. Now you're really in the market for a center. They would still have Zach Collins on the roster, but I think then, and
Jalen Smith too.
Yeah, Jalen Smith as well. I apologize. Coming off the injury. I mean, I have Common right in this range. It sounds like Common's probably going to end up going higher than this, but just based off my board, I would be okay with like, go ahead.
I'm not sure yet where Common's going to go, to be honest.
Okay.
I'll just say that. Like, I think this is the range. I think it's somewhere like 7 to like 14 for Common. So
I think Common, Derek Queen, Thomas Sorber would all be in play here, whether they fall a little bit. Maybe this is a touch high, but not much for any of those guys. I don't think. I think they would all be in range right here. I think this would be a good pick at the center spot. Honestly, even if you have Vooch on the roster, right? If you still have him on the roster, it's 1 year. Like if you don't trade him at the deadline on an expiring, then you really screwed this up. So I think this is an interesting center spot for them in terms of any one of those three guys.
I think so too. I think Common makes a ton of sense here for Chicago. I think that like my guess is that knowing that Arturas Karnisovas played a role in drafting Nikola Jokic, I would guess that he has some interest in Derek Queen at least. Like, I'm not saying that, Derek Queen is the next Nikola Jokic or anything, but like, big skilled dude who can play on the perimeter as a center. Like, I would imagine that there is some interest there, at least in Derek Queen.
Yeah. I think Queen would be really interesting. Again, defensively, things are going to be like, eventually they're going to have to answer that, but with a team that I don't think is very good and has any sort of direction, I'm more okay them trying to solve one side of the ball, like go be really good offensively. Like even though they were second in pace and fifth in 3-point attempt rate and 12th in 3-point percentage, they were 20th in offensive rating. Like, so if you want to go hey, let's go all in on offense. Let's figure that out. Let's be fun. Let's be enjoyable. Let's find a path. And then you can start figuring out like, okay, now we got to start getting some defense and balancing this thing out a little bit.
What if you brought the Wolfman home?
So I was going to bring him up as well. Yeah, of course.
Danny Wolf, 7-footer from Michigan, combo big, kind of like forward center hybrid, from Chicago originally, kind of grew up in the suburbs, real fun player that I love watching. Another similar, like highly skilled big that I can see Arturas Karnisovas really liking and really enjoying. I think probably would be in the mix here for Chicago. The names here to me for Chicago are Carter Bryant if he falls.
I was going to say Carter Bryant is going to be the best name we talk about in this like 10 to 14 range, that if he falls to here, this team is going to be lucky.
Common Maluach, Derek Queen, Colin Murray-Boyles, Danny Wolf. I think that like even more than Sorber, those are the names. Like if they took Sorber, I wouldn't hate it, but those are the names for me personally. A lot of the other players in this range are guards like Walter Clayton, Nolan Traore. I have fears in, a little bit lower than this range, but he could end up going higher than this range, obviously. I don't think Will Riley rises into this range. I probably wouldn't take Essengay and have like two high-hipped, athletic, him and Modest players. I think that's probably setting up for some struggles defensively. But yeah, I think that's kind of the list for me. Like even like a Cedric Howard, I think you could throw into this mix a little bit.
I was going to say Nick and Cedric are also guys that like, this is, I think when you get to the end of the lottery, those are both wings that I would start to be interested in as well.
Yeah. So if I was ordering it, I would say for them, probably Carter Bryant.
Yep.
I would have Cedric Howard ahead, but I don't think that they will have Cedric Howard ahead. And then I'd probably have Maluach, then Derek Queen, then Colin Murray-Boyles, then Danny Wolf.
Sure.
That'd kind of be my little list of guys to watch for here.
Yep. I like that list. I'm cool with that.
And then, look, we've talked about a lot of the mid-level guys on other iterations of the offseason previews. Is there anybody here that like really tracks for you? Because honestly, with them, I kind of struggled to find mid-level guys because a lot of the mid-level guys this year are more like in the guard variety.
Yeah, so like Ty Jerome, Karis LeVert, like those guys don't make sense. Not saying those guys are getting the full, like even Nikhil Alexander Walker, I feel like that's a little harder, right, Sam, to find the rotation with all the guards they have. I mean, we're always going to talk about Sam Merrill. What about Yabusele? They kind of need that. Could they? Well,
sure.
Yeah, I mean,
like if not, like I think Naz Reid's deal is going to get bigger than the mid-level.
Yeah, I agree there. I agree with that.
Could they be a Santi Aldama spot? So potentially.
So, my thing with that is like, yeah. I was thinking like with Patrick Williams, like you still have to give him minutes, right? Like, because you gave him that contract. So I struggle with that there. Like, do you just bury him with the roster and players, or do you still try to leave some opening for him to play? So yeah, those names are interesting. I was trying to think like more like true wing, like threes, like some guys that can really slot in as like what I would call a wing a little bit more. But
yeah, I will say this, like in the play-in game, like Pat Williams played like 15 minutes and like barely played.
No,
like
for sure. It would make sense for them to. So yeah, in that regard, Santi, Yabusele, Laravia is an unrestricted free agent as well. So
that'd actually be a really good name for them.
So yeah.
Won't cost the full mid-level, but like,
correct.
That's actually a really good name that I hadn't thought of for them. I like that for them. Like it's a good fit with Modest. It's a good fit with Josh Giddey, has some defensive versatility and flexibility. Yeah. That actually that's the best name that we've said so far for them.
Yeah. I like that.
Right age group for this like core that you're trying to build.
Sure.
20, what is he? 23 now.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, that's actually a really good target for them. I think that is probably what I would do if I was them.
Love it.
Look at you, Bryce. Look at you just coming up with these brilliant ideas.
Every once in a while, I got one.
I love it. Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky, the Substack, Pistons Pulse podcast, and the Game Theory podcast here with Sam Vecenie. Please like, subscribe, share, rate, review. We're having a blast. We're growing, but the only way we continue to grow is if you do all that stuff and tell a friend how much you enjoy listening and watching. Hopefully you enjoy listening and watching because that's why you're doing it. So tell a friend about it.
Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. Like Bryce said, over 37,000 of you have subscribed to the YouTube channel at this point as of the time of recording this. We appreciate all of you immensely. It is so kind of you guys to rock with us and hang out. Thank you all for listening. Until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.